Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're back on the V10 project here. I have got the engine brackets and some engine mounts that hopefully will make stuff line up here without having to go too crazy with custom mounts. If we can keep it OEM, keep it bolted in, it'll be a lot more simple, look a lot cleaner, and more OEM. So if we look here at the stock A4 mounts, center of the mount, we are to the back. And what I need is I need to be to the front a few inches. So what I have here is stock B7 S4 mounts. So with the 4.2, you can see how that mount ear is to the front, whereas that one's to the back. That should give us, I think it's about 2.5 inches on both sides here, which should get very close to lining up with our engine mounts here. The other thing I got is the S8 mounts. So I have the two options to play with, S6 and S8, to see which one ends up working better. These, if you look here, lining it up, the mount is to the back. So, and they're also shorter. See if I can get up in there. If you kind of get a visual there how much shorter these are. So with them being shorter, I'll have more room to get a better engine mount in there, as well as on this side especially. This mount here is really long, and this one should shorten that up to where we'll have a little more room to get mounts in. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead, get some stuff swapped around, and then we'll shove the engine back in there, as well as I gotta get rid of this battery tray because the turbo is hitting that, and that obviously doesn't need to be in there anymore. So we'll clean that out and then do a test fit, see if we can get this thing sitting on its own mounts today. All right, so we got to push forward. I'm going to grab the pressure washer and clean this engine bay up a little bit. So we can see the old 2-liter was definitely doing the rust prevention going on here. So we'll see. We'll get her kind of cleaned up. Hopefully we've got everything capped off. I'll probably swing some of them out of my way. But yeah, let's get this engine bay a little cleaner so we're not getting so dirty just working on it. All right, so I think that's gonna do it for now. I'm gonna dry this thing off a bit, get it back on the lift. Not perfect, but I don't really want to be blasting water up around the top because the ECU cover is open. That should get a lot of the grease knocked off. We're gonna get it back up, dry it off, clean the shop up a bit from the mess, and carry on. Alright, so we got this thing mostly cleaned up. Pretty good for just a quick, rough pressure washing. So I'm going to start getting these swapped out. Basically, we got two main bolts here and the main subframe bolt in the back. Drop the sway bar down and we'll be able to swap them around. Alright, so hopefully we can see here. You sight straight down here. This one's to the front, straight down here. Or, I'm sorry, this one's to the back. This one's to the front. So this is the new one going back in. Quick comparison here. Hopefully you can see from that angle, but this is stock A4. This is the S4. So forward and to the back. Kind of see maybe from this angle. There we're sitting way forward from the subframe. Actually, I could measure that now. See where my tape measure is here. So just a really rough measurement from the very edge of the subframe, maybe about 4.5 inches to center of that mount there. And here, maybe see a line out of the way. Now we can kind of get an estimation there. Probably 2.5. So yeah, right about 2 inches approximately. So now do this side and we're ready to set the engine in and see how things are lining up. All right, so that wraps up that. We're gonna go back down, get the engine back on the engine's hoist, and I'll probably test fit it with the S6 bracket since they're on the engine already. We'll kind of get an idea where we're sitting with them. So we have something to compare about when we switch to the S8 brackets, and we'll go back in, see where the car is happiest at, where everything sits the closest, where we can hopefully make an engine mount that either it's just a straight drop in or that adapts to a little bit of difference that we have. Because again, I am working around turbo placement. This isn't strictly an engine. If it was just the engine itself, NA, it would drop right on these brackets, no problems. But I might have to shift that a little bit to make the engine, intercoolers, all that stuff work, since I'm working around a prefabbed kit. So, and I don't have any information how they had it setting, what combination of stuff they used. That's why we got it all, and we can mix and match until everything becomes happy and we get it into its new home. All right, guys, so we are making our way in through here, and first issue we see is I do not have it trimmed enough for the downpipe. So this corner is gonna have to come out. But that's fine, I'm gonna go ahead and just pull the downpipe out. Kind of have that information now. I might take a Sharpie and kind of mark it. Pull this back out so we can get back to making our mounts line up. So as you can see here, this mount's still here. We gotta go back a little bit here, which, looking up here, we can continue on back for about that distance. So hopefully this will get us right where we need to be. For now, I'm gonna pull the downpipe so we can carry on. All right, so we're kind of in, not really in any particular spot, just kind of getting my back and forth right now. If we look, see if I can get the camera somewhere where you guys can see. Make it focus. So you can see the bracket down there. Right there, focused. We are still a few inches off. And if we look here, we're getting pretty decent fitment to the shock tower. We're maxed out as far as turbo goes. And we're sitting kind of centered. This side, actually, we might have a better view of the mounts there. Yep, there you can see it. So we're gonna come back out. We're gonna swap the S8 mounts on it to kind of see where that gets us. See here, turbo is basically all the way back in there. So yeah, a lot of back and forth. We're gonna get that thing out. Actually, before I do that, I might go over here, pop my fans off the core support and put that on. Kind of see how our fitment is with the core support. Definitely gonna have to get rid of the fans in the back there, but I wanna see how, if there's any chance of it fitting with the current setup, or if we still have to work on getting stuff pushed back. All right, so I got that kind of hollowed out. We got the fans there, radiators back there, and crash bar to keep it safe. So right now we have the engine sitting perfectly level, side to side. We're tilted forward a little bit, which we're not too worried about that right now. I'm just trying to do all the measuring, trying to figure out where we need to be. So underneath, we're about an inch short of the drive shaft meeting, which I can run a spacer, but kind of where we're sitting right now. From the pictures I have, I believe I'm very close. What I'm going off of is a few pictures kind of from this angle, and I can see that from the power steering reservoir, we're about even with the fourth coil back, as well as where our turbo placement is. Looks like it's pretty close to where they had it. And then I'm just gonna have to notch the core support a bit to get it on there, but it will work. So for now, it's coming back out. We're gonna put the S8 brackets in and go back in, see what that does. So here's where stuff could get interesting, because I believe they modified this mount to fit around their custom starter. They didn't know that there's an OEM bolt on for this one, so they made, I don't even know what combination of starters and modifications they used here to get this to work. But we're gonna pop this off, see what we can need to do. I'm hoping we don't have to modify the S8 mount, because if I don't need it, I wanna be able to return it. But let's get this off and see. All right, S8 mounts are on. We're gonna go right back in. See how that all sits. I could actually go ahead and pop my alternator off, because I'm going to be replacing this going to a standard alternator most likely. I'm actually going to have to figure out what the best route is going to be on that. But yeah, most likely I'll be dropping that and going to an air-cooled one just to save a little space, weight, and different control. Anyway, back in we go. See what the fitment is like on these. All right, guys, so I spent the last probably hour and a half, 2 hours going in and out, up and down, trying to get this thing to sit down in behind the subframe while clearing the steering rack with the turbo and stuff. Finally, I was almost ready to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to hack my subframe to allow it to drop down in before going back to get under my bolt here. So the big fight I had was this clearance right here, and the problem was I was having to come in with the engine at an angle to clear the subframe, and it was fighting this bolt. I couldn't get it down in. So I finally pulled the upper section and decided to put it in without the turbo piping, just to see if it would actually fit. Turns out it fits, and this pipe actually drops in there. So I'm assuming that's why it was split, but I didn't know because I've got no instructions or anything here. But that allowed me to just so fit over the subframe, get it set down in. And as we can see, if it'll focus there, come on. Here we go. We're very, very close to lining up front and back on that mount, as well as this side right there. Now it is kind of hanging loose and swinging a little bit, but it does line right up. The other thing I gotta do is get everything level, which, as we can see, with my precise leveling tool here, we're right there. I do want to get a little bit more slope in it to the rear. I forget what the spec is. I'm thinking it's like 3 to 5 degrees that you really want to have for a drive shaft angle and all that, but I'm not going to get too scientific on that. With this project, we wanted to at least have it heading in the right direction. We are very close to centered. If it's not centered right now, it actually can be. It's kind of, like I said, just kind of hanging there. So let's roll underneath. We'll take a quick look around the bottom. Some light going here. So as we can see, that is my subframe fitment right now. I might still end up hacking this one a little bit until I go tubular subframe. But for right now, we actually do have a little bit of clearance there. And the bottom is still oily. I didn't get that all clean. But we're actually fully installed here, as we can see on the drive shaft. I think I'm gonna have to run, probably a inch and a half spacer. So I'll probably just have to grab another one of these or a rear axle flange. Space that out, get it all right. Or maybe I'll get the right drive shaft. I might actually do some measuring. But I don't think any drive shaft is going to be, I think there's a 3-inch difference between manual and auto, but I'll have to confirm that. But yeah, so we're looking pretty good. As you can see, axles are going to be pretty well lined up there. Go across there to that axle. Here's all our other fitment here. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit. Not a whole lot better, but I'm sure you'll like seeing this upside down view. But yeah, so we are definitely kind of nearing the spot where I can start figuring out how I'm going to mount everything. So yeah, definitely fun times. We're going to get back out from under here, start doing some measuring, start getting our mounts fabbed up to where we can get this thing actually sitting permanently bolted in and go from there. Turbo is back on. You can see how much lower we're sitting now. Very nice and tucked in there. Kind of tough to see, but I have to clean this up. I'm probably going to clean this up all the way along here. Okay, all the way over to this grommet here. Get rid of that whole corner. We're going to have to have intake things going on here. I'm not sure how I'm going to run an intake out here or how I'm going to do it. And then over here, I'm going to come back out. We're going to work on cleaning this whole thing out. I'm probably going to follow the shock tower up and just clean it up all the way up to here. Get room for downpipe, but for now we're able to go back out. To come back out, rather than pulling everything off the top, I might drop the subframe and see if that gives me enough clearance to come in and out. But before I do that, I'm going to throw the core support back on there, figure out how that's all going to work, make sure I'm back far enough to make all that clear. So back to it again we go. All right, guys, so I have the old hockey puck stacked up here, 2 on one side, 1 on the other, and we are sitting very close. Those are kind of firm up the engine here. I'm going to quick check my sender to sender. So we are centered, we're level. So I'm going to start going with this where I have it setting because it's actually firm on those mounts. And I'm going to start trimming my core support. See if I can get my core support on here so that I can kind of get some hood clearance, hood latch, all that stuff, radiator, fitment, and see what we can get done. All right, guys, we've made pretty good progress today here. I've actually got the radiator in the core support. I don't know if you can see down through there, but there actually is a gap. The power steering line's in the way. We're probably 1/2 inch from the crank pulley down through there. Right on my outlet, because I'm just using the A4 radiator here, it's hitting the thermostat housing. As well as on this side, the automatic transcooler bung is hitting on the alternator pulley there. So that's what's keeping this from actually sitting back where it belongs. If it weren't for those 2 things, this thing would actually sit back and would clear. You can kind of see how it tucks in under there. So we are getting places slowly. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this all back apart and do some looking as far as if there is a stock radiator I can use. It'll drop in there because the way it looks, I might get lucky and be able to if I can get my outlets and inlets right. So actually it does sit farther forward than I thought. So for now, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates.